Welcome to the Soul-Led Career Podcast. My name is Marketa. I'm your host, and I have an amazing guest here today, Eman Ismail. Welcome, Eman.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I'm gonna try to label you properly, but at the same time, I don't want to label you, so it's gonna be a little bit difficult. But I'm gonna say a few of your labels. Feel free to add upon them.
Okay.
So Eman is a copywriter, a business owner, a mother. How else could we keep defining you? I'm making quotes. It
Oh
feels
my gosh.
strange.
Email expert, podcast host.
Oh yeah, I wanted to say that one. I love your
Yeah.
podcast.
Thank you. So podcast host, daughter, friend. Oh my gosh, what else? I want to say book lover. I am like inherently a book lover. However, I am not reading a lot of books at the moment. So I don't want to lie about that. I'm buying a lot of books, but I'm not getting through a lot of books. So let's just say book lover, because like really deep down, I am. I just need to like reconnect with that side of myself and get back to it. And writer as well, I think. Yeah.
And I have to add one more thing. You are just a person with an amazing vibe. Really, like, I don't know if you remember when I first wrote you, like why I did.
I can't remember why.
Yeah, because I saw you completely randomly. I forgot with whom it was, but on a live with someone.
Oh.
And I was like, oh my God, this girl has such an amazing energy. I need to talk to her. So this is just like such a beautiful excuse to be able to do that.
Thank you. No, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to dive in.
Awesome. So this is a career podcast, right? And I had many reasons, as I mentioned some already, why I wanted to talk to you. But one is that what I keep coming back to for myself and also for when I'm talking to my clients is the fact that if you think back in the time of elementary school, high school, even from when you're a child, right? And an adult asks you, who do you want to become when you grow up? Would any kid, could you imagine any kid saying a copywriter? Like,
no, not at all.
right?
I mean, I wanted to be so many things, but one of the things was a writer. I always wanted, like, my dream was to have published, something just to get published. And I always felt like it was only maybe the likes of like J.K. Rowling who could be amazingly successful authors. And I mean, I guess I was kind of right in terms of like how much money is available is on the table. I think most authors will tell you they don't do it for the money. But I am amazed to see that I found a type of writing that allows me to, create a career from it and build an income. And so that's been really interesting to kind of see.
And do you remember the time when you first had this thought of being a writer and like what led you to that?
I don't remember. The main thing that I always wanted to be was a singer. I cannot tell you. I practically lived on stage. So I was singing and I was dancing and I was acting and I was in more shows and more plays than I'll ever be able to like count. And so I always thought that's what I was going to do. And honestly, most people that met me probably thought like that was what I was going to do. But I also loved books and I was also very academic. And so while I loved like drama and that kind of thing, I always had, I guess, my family on the other side who were like, okay, this is great. You're having fun, but it was probably in like my mid-teens towards like, and yeah, mid-teens, maybe they started kind of saying, okay, now get serious. Like, okay, what do you actually want to be? Like, we accepted singer for like 16 years. Now we're not going to accept that anymore. So what is it that you want to be? What do you want to do? And so I guess I started seriously thinking about, okay, well, I love this thing. What are the chances that I'm going to make it? Right. And if I was being totally honest with myself, and I don't think I've ever admitted this like out loud. I think I am a really good singer, but I am not good enough to be, I think, to have ever been kind of, hugely successful in that realm. And I think that was just me like being really honest with myself, rather than like, oh, she gave up on her dreams. It was like, we're being honest. I mean, there's so many people that you're kind of competing against in that realm. I'd already been to so many auditions, and like my life was just auditions and auditions upon auditions. And then, you know, you get used to the acceptance and, you know, landing the role or getting the whatever, but also the rejection on the other side. So I had that time where I was like, okay, you're getting older. Seriously, do you think you can make it in this field? And the answer was, no, I don't think I can. But I do think there's loads of other things I can do. So what are those other things? And so I always loved reading. I dived into that. And I think I remember specifically having one assignment where I had to write a short story. And I had the best time writing this short story. And I must have been 17 or 18. Absolutely loved it. I got a really high grade on it. And forget the grade. I remember my the lady who's marking it telling me, my teacher telling me that she wrote on like the paper, this was a publishable piece of work. And that's when I will never leave me. This was what, I don't know. This was 13 years ago, and I still remember how that made me feel and thinking, wow, maybe writing is something I can do. Now, I always felt like I could never write a humongous kind of novel. I don't have the patience to be able to write something that big, but it was the short story that made me think, maybe there are other forms of writing that I can do. And so that was always kind of in the back of my head. And then this is like, I was growing up now, and it was kind of the age where blogging became a thing. And so that was a new kind of short form piece of writing or medium that was becoming really popular. And so I guess it was just a good time where things kind of started happening. The online kind of business world started growing. I eventually realized that I could make money through writing. One of the first things I did was earn money writing blog posts. And that was really the first time that I thought, oh my gosh, wow, this is really possible. And that was only like, you know, maybe $20 for a blog post, but it was just receiving that money and thinking, oh, wow, if someone's actually willing to pay me for this, that I think that was the beginning of where I am today.
Wow. Like, I'm blown away actually, because it feels like really it came full circle from you wanted to use your voice as a singer, and you end up using your voice spreading short stories.
I've never thought of that. That's amazing. I've never thought of that. But I have thought about the fact that it went from like short stories to blogging to emails. And for me, from the emails that I write, they are short stories. It's a form of storytelling, and in some cases selling, which is what I do for the business owners that I work with, but it's all storytelling. And so I get to use that kind of every day now.
Which is also something that you do on your podcast as well. And I just really want to shout you out for that, because the production is incredible. But the way how you bring really the listener on a journey is just incredible. Then also the music in the background, it just makes it even more like, really like you feel like you're in the middle of a story. Plus, I had no idea that you actually wanted to be a singer, but I understand it because your voice is just so soothing and so deep that it just brings it all so much together. And it really is just like it's just such a joy just to listen to your voice.
Thank you so much. I can't actually tell you how happy that makes me. Like, someone sent me a message that said something like, your voice is so melodic. And I just thought, oh my gosh, like my inner singer, that makes me so happy. That makes the inner child in me that always wanted to be a singer just so happy to hear that, like, you can recognize still that kind of something, that you recognize that there's something there, right? So thank you so much. And I think with the podcast, it's called Mistakes That Made Me. It's a business podcast. It's the podcast where I ask extraordinary business owners to share their biggest business mistake. And we dive into that mistake and we talk about, you know, all the lessons learned, that kind of thing. And in terms of like why I created it, it was really a passion project. I really just felt like I had something to say and something to share. And I needed to this was my creative outlet. I also felt like I needed somewhere to just play in my business and have fun. And so something that wasn't so like, okay, you know, this is the way we do things. Like I just wanted somewhere where I could just explore and have fun. And so me kind of writing scripts for this podcast and creating these stories, and then also working with a podcast producer who totally understood my vision in terms of having fun and playing with the sound and the music and really creating like an all-round experience with the words, the stories, the sound, the music, the guests. It just kind of all really came together.
You know, I would be really interested. I didn't mean to go there, but now I just cannot not go there. When you were talking about how you were growing up and how the thoughts that you had around who you will be one day as you were growing up, now you're a mother, right? I mean, your children are very young right now, but how do you feel like it's going to be, or maybe what's your idea at this moment of how would you like to help them, you know, figure out what they want to do in life?
That's such a great question. And I think it's so hard because I now understand why my family at the age that I was at was like, okay, look, time to get serious. Like, what are you going to do that's going to help take care of you? Because it's serious, right? And my children are at an age where, well, the baby is 1, so we have lots of time with him. But my older son is 7, and he's started talking a lot about, you know, he's going through that age where it's like, when I grow up, I want to be. And so we've had lots of things. And one of the most recent things he said that stuck with him for quite a while is, I want to be an artist. And he is really good at drawing. Like, I have never been able to draw ever, but he is so good. And so while I've not taken it at face value, I know that he'll go through a million stages before, you know, he figures out what he wants to be. But I think my role is to follow his interests and to really foster his interests and help him figure out what he enjoys doing, where his passions lie. And so when he tells me that he's loving art, I'm going and getting him, you know, crayons and art and crafts kits to kind of explore with and play with. And I'm signing him up for art classes, and, you know, we're exploring different sports. And right now he's really into one sport, and I actually want him to like try a few others and see if, you know, any of those take his fancy. And so I'm not really thinking too much about, I guess, what he's going to be, but I see my role as being to provide him with the opportunity to just explore all his interests.
Yeah, I find it really beautiful, because especially as you were at some point thinking about being a writer, you could never think of being a blogger or email strategist. Like, all of this is so crazy, because first of all, at the time, we even barely know what that means, right? So we are thinking of more the specific skill or certain idea behind a certain career. But at the same time, I feel like it's so important to, I would say, raise the children, but also raise the children inside of us, our inner child.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
In a sense of, the world is changing so quickly at this moment, right? It's not anymore the way how it used to be for our parents, that there were a certain amount of jobs available for you. And you just, of course, at the time you choose one and you just go after it, and then you stay in the same company for 25 years, right? It is so different now. The whole culture of jobs and career is so different. It keeps changing and evolving in such a rapid speed. But I feel like we keep looking at it from the perspective of what our parents used to ask us because of what was normal for them.
Yes, I totally agree. And, you know, one of the most amazing things for me is that whole idea of like traditional employment. You get a job, you stay at the same company for years and years, and then you retire with that company. I was always really against that, just that notion, that idea, that life. I always knew that I had interest in so many different things. I also knew that I was multi-talented in different areas. and I could do different things. I used to think, I used to hate this idea of everyone trying to box me into one thing. Like, I don't want to be one thing. I used to really frustrate me, and when I got out of like the singer era, which was a really long period of my life, people would ask me, okay, well, what do you want to be? And at this point, I'm 20, I'm 21, I'm 22, and I'm still saying, I don't know. I have so many interests. And I remember just feeling like that there's so many things I want to do. Why can I not do all of them? And so building this business has been so exciting because I get to do all the things that I want to do. And like, even just looking back on, it feels like my life was leading up to this point, and all the things that I tried that worked or didn't work was really training me and leading me to this point where I can now decide the things that I want to try. Like I have stories to tell, so I'm going to start a podcast. And I don't know how the podcast is going to go. I don't know if people are going to listen, but I'm going to start a podcast because I have something to say. And on top of that, I'm a writer. And on top of that, I'm, I'm telling stories in my emails. And on top of that, I'm a course creator. And on top of that, I'm, all these different things. And so you took me back to a time when it was, you have to be one thing. You have to choose one thing. And I always knew that wasn't me, and that wasn't going to be what was happening. And I also knew that this idea of like being at the same job for years wouldn't work for me, because I get very bored very easily. Like, you better stimulate me or I'm going to leave the job within a few months. Like, make sure that I'm not bored. So I knew that was an issue for me, in all seriousness. Even the last job that I was in right before I left that role to start my business, I remember speaking to my manager and saying, I need you to challenge me. Can you please sign me up for some courses? Please, I need to learn more. I need to do more. I feel like I'm just stuck in this place and I'm not growing, I'm not learning. And I could feel myself just starting to feel like stifled and trapped. And I knew I'm going to have to quit. I'm going to have to leave if he doesn't help me, if he doesn't help me learn something new. I knew I was going to quit. And then I did resign for a bunch of reasons. But then we had the conversation of, he was like, I'm going to sign you up for that course now. And I was like, well, no, it's done. That was so long ago in my brain. Like, I'm already like thinking way ahead of all the things that I'm ready to do now. It's too late. So it's amazing how things do change, and how our expectations of what a job is, of what employment is, does change. Because even as we see like all these, especially in the tech industry, all these layoffs happening now, being in traditional employment was always the safe option. And now it doesn't feel like being an employee, like traditional employment, is the safe option, and being an entrepreneur or a business owner is the risky option. To me, it doesn't feel like that anymore. And so, yeah, like you said, it's funny how things change, and who knows what the world is going to be when my kids are old enough to choose their career.
I couldn't relate more to what you're saying. I am exactly the person that you were describing right now. It's insane. I get bored of the workplace, of the work itself, of the people.
So true.
It's like, I need some change, right? I absolutely get you. Plus, I also want to be kind of like exploring different stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What I find interesting is that the people who switch from a traditional employment to having their own business, not everybody, but especially I feel like if you're a service-based business, I feel like often it is because of the certain skill that is either like it's already inherently in them, or they were working to build it for years, that was in them for such a long time already before. I would be super interested in, when you're writing copy, right? You were mentioning it's stories for you. It's also the expression of your own voice. Is there a skill that brought you to it, or vice versa? Feel free to, which feels more like your way right now. Or the second option, more of, do you find that the better you get in copy, the better certain things in your life are?
I actually want to answer both those questions because they're both great questions. So the first one, I as a copywriter, am a salesperson. So copywriting is different from, say, writing to entertain in a novel or whatever, because in copywriting, you're trying to sell something. So it's the act of selling a thing, whether that's something that you see on a billboard, like the words on a billboard is copy, or the words in a sales email that like the brands that you're signed up to are sending you, whether like, I don't know, you sign up to like Nike's emails, they send you those emails, that's all copy, those are all sales emails. And so being a copywriter is being a salesperson, and I have always been a salesperson. From a very young age, I used to, actually what's really funny is I think I've always been entrepreneurial minded as well. What's really funny is I must have been 10, 11 when I used to gather like all the food in the kitchen that my mom had bought. And I created this like restaurant menu and created this restaurant inside my house. And so then I'd go to my mom and give her this menu and say, these are the meal options, these are the prices. And I was like, choose what you want, for me to make you, and I'll go and make it. And then you pay me, and this is how I make money in my house, right? My mom would look at me. I remember her just looking at me and saying, so wait a minute. I go buy the food shopping with my money, and then you want me to pay for it again. And I was like, okay, so I see why that business model might be flawed just a little bit at like 10, 11, but just, work with me. So obviously that business didn't work out, but things like that, selling my stuff, working on market stalls, and selling like, gosh, everything from like kitchen goods to, gosh, I don't even remember what they're called now, but like fancy CD players, like all those sound systems. There we go. Oh my God, I'm showing my age. Sound systems. I was always a salesperson. So moving into copywriting has just really brought out that person in me. I like the game. I like the chase of of trying to see if I can convince someone to buy a thing that is actually good for them. So I'm not talking about like trying to get them to buy a thing that they don't need or that they don't want and pressuring them. I mean like if a thing is good for a person and they actually want it and it can help them, can I help them get over that line so that they can figure out, oh, actually, yes, I do want this thing. So that's the first thing. And the second thing, oh my God, I can't remember what your second question was. That was really good.
And do you remember? I think so. I think where in life do you use the skill of the copy?
Oh my God, such a great question. So again, because being a copywriter is being a salesperson, you have to learn how to be persuasive. Like the whole thing is about persuasion. And also understanding humans and how humans work on like an emotional level and on a psychological level. You need to understand what makes humans tick, why they might buy a thing, why they might not buy a thing, and when to like put those things into motion so that you can get them to buy the thing. So as you can imagine, this is very helpful in life. And so for starters, I remember sitting down with, like, we had an issue with at my son's school one time, and brilliant school, brilliant staff, but I sat down with I sent an email of
course.
Yeah, I did, right? About this issue. And then we went and had a meeting with this particular staff member, and he sat me down and he said, first of all, I just need to say, and remember, he doesn't know what I do for a living, he has no idea. So he said, first of all, I just need to say that was the best email I have ever received. And I started laughing because the email copywriter in the room, I started laughing, and he didn't know why I was laughing. And he was like, no, seriously, the best email I've ever read. And so as you can imagine, really, this is a really great skill to have in life. When when people are going through stuff and you need to get your money back, I'm the first person that family members want to come to, like, help, I'll write the thing for you. Let's do it. A cousin of mine had a really big incident happen, and I was like, send me the details, I'll write up the thing. This is a really useful skill to have. to understand how to persuade people. Even just like when I'm working, when I'm doing stuff with my kids, when I'm talking to my kids, when I'm talking to my 7-year-old, you know, I don't just like tell him to do a thing. I know that from a human, like just from a human perspective, from what I've learned as a copywriter, you have to really give the person incentive to want to do the thing. Well, why would they do a thing that only benefits you and not them? And so even when I'm talking to my kids, I use these principles of persuasion to convince them to do the thing that mama wants them to do. So yeah, very helpful. It helps me in life a lot.
I'm already seeing the conversation of sign up here to clean up your room.
Exactly.
But wow,
Exactly.
this is so amazing what you're saying, because for me, I'm a person who is scared of copy. I love reading. I love listening to audiobooks, podcasts, all of this. But I'm always have been more of an audio visual person, audio and video.
Mm-hmm.
And the same for, it's funny again what you said, because I have been in sales my whole life as well, right? So recruitment is sale, whether you're selling a human being or
Mm-hmm.
or a piece of something, it's still like you're still selling something, you're still selling a service. And before when I was, oh my God, I actually used to work in a call center for a very short period of time selling insurance. That was the worst job ever, but it taught me so much.
I can imagine.
And during the time when I was in the uni, I often would be a hostess on certain events, right? Or for example, one time I was a hostess for like a pop-up store of Nivea, you know, on just brands like that. So you're spending, obviously you sell so much. What is interesting though, I have no problem picking up a phone, calling a random person and talking to them, because I feel like I know how to use my sales skills. The moment when I'm supposed to put it on a paper and I see the words, or paper, email, whatever, right? I see the words, I feel like the words are like the way how they are staring at me. I get anxious about it. And I suddenly feel like the words are going to stay there. They can reread them. What if they're going to see this in it or that in it? And I just start overthinking and just feels so difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you're not the only one. I mean, that's why my clients hire me. So what I do is I work with business owners and organizations as well that have do email marketing. So most businesses, most organizations send emails. I am the person that they hire to write those emails, to sell their products, to sell their courses, sell their thing, basically talk to their customers and their audiences, because they all have that same issue where, particularly like the entrepreneurs, the entrepreneurs that I work with, they're so great at what they do, but they really struggle to communicate that on paper or in words. So that's where I come in. So I feel like it's just one of those things where you can't be great at everything, right? So you're going to be great at the things that you're great at, and then you get help with the stuff that you're not so great at. So for me, I come in for my clients and we have like an extensive kind of research and briefing process where I'm trying to understand who they are, you know, what they do, why they do what they do, what makes them tick, what are their motivations. Then I'm trying to understand their audience as well. So, okay, you're you, but who are you talking to? Who's your audience? What do they want? What are they afraid of? What are they struggling with? Why are they interested in you? Why would they hire you? Why do they want to hire you? What's stopping them from hiring you or buying from you? And so then I take all this information and then turn it into stories and emails and sometimes sales pages as well that sell their courses, their digital products, their physical products as well, because I work with e-commerce brands as well. I even work with charities and not-for-profits. And so it's interesting because they are still selling a thing, and they're selling the notion of the donation. So the sell there is like donate now. Instead of buy now, it's just donate now. And what they're doing really is selling a version of the donor to themselves. Like, this is what donating to this cause makes you. This is who it helps you become, you know, and it's usually this better person, or the perception that you're a better person for donating, you know, you're this, you're that. So yeah, you're not the only one. I am in business because people like you feel like, damn, I can't get this into words.
And I love the example right now that you gave on donate now, you will become a better person and so on, because that's all what sales is, right?
Mm-hmm.
It will, if you buy this, you will be a better version of yourself. You will upgrade yourself. you will make your neighbors jealous, whatever it is that you're selling.
Exactly.
It's always kind of like selling the next version of you. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I'm so sorry. I'm going to disturb the episode just for a minute because I wanted to tell you about something really, really exciting going right now in the world of soul-led career. So a few days ago, I was running a very, very exciting workshop on the topic of building your best life and a career that supports it. In my world, I don't believe that it should be the other way around. We are here to live. And on top of that, we get to have a very, very fulfilling career that is going to support the lifestyle that we truly desire. And in this workshop, it was 1.5 hour amazing workshop. Pretty, like, it was so cool. And we got to discover together with the participants about what it is that they actually truly want from life. Because often we have been conditioned into what we think that we should have, what we think that success is, what we think that being rich is. And the moment when we decide to decondition from that and actually peel off the layers of that metaphorical onion, we realize that we might be living someone else's idea of success. And maybe we have been running after something that we don't actually want. So we get to the place when we finally realize what is it that we want, and this is the best place to start building your new life and new career from. So I'm inviting you to join that workshop as well. Even though it was already live and it's recorded, you can still get the replay for free. And I'm so excited for you to go and dive deep into that. Just go and visit the link in the description of this podcast episode and go ahead, enjoy. You know, it's interesting. As far as I know, you're also teaching other how to write a good copy. Do you feel like only certain type of people can learn that, or you feel like anyone can?
No, not at all. I feel like anyone can learn how to do it. I feel like I didn't know how to do it. And again, because copywriting is different from writing. Like if I wanted to go write a novel, I have to go learn how to write a novel. It's a very specific way of writing. Same with copywriting. If you want to learn how to sell in a way that actually makes people buy and doesn't just kind of put people off, you have to learn how to do that, because copywriting is really a mixture of marketing, sales, psychology, it's persuasion, it's a whole bunch of things. And so I had to learn how to do it. And what's funny is, I mean, I think I'm naturally a good writer. So I came to this thinking, okay, I know how to write, I can do this. And I very quickly realized when I came into this copywriting world, I had so much to learn. I didn't know, I was naturally a good writer, but that wasn't going to help me be a good copywriter and help me sell stuff. And so I had to learn how to write copy and how to be a copywriter, how to write copy that actually sells. And so the very first thing I did was start signing up for courses that would teach me. So I myself had to learn how to be a copywriter. And I believe that all business owners can and should learn how to sell themselves and their products as well, and learn how to also write great copy. And I don't think it's easy, but I think that it's definitely possible.
And on top of that, you still had to learn how to run a business, right? It's not just that
the whole different thing. And it took me a while to realize that too. So once you focus on your craft and getting good at your craft, so it's like, okay, great. I'm a good copywriter now, but being a good copywriter doesn't mean that I'm going to be a good business owner or that I'm going to have a great copywriting business. And actually that's something I learned and realized, and I felt like the copywriting world was missing. So we have so many courses to teach us how to write great copy and how to be good at the craft of copywriting, but not so many courses on how to actually run a business as a copywriter. Like, how do you run your copywriting business? So that's actually a course that I created for all the copywriters to teach them how to actually run the business side of things. Because again, I come across the most amazing copywriters, and their businesses aren't doing as well as it could be, not because they're bad copywriters, they're actually great copywriters, but because they're not so great business owners. They have no idea how to run the business. And it's exactly as you said, most people don't even realize that the two are completely separate. your skill is on this side, like your craft is on this side, and then actually being a business owner is a whole different skill.
Yeah. And it's interesting because now I can look back at my experience as a recruiter when I would sorry, I get stuck. When I would talk to certain candidates, and there was a specific type of people who would say, like, I'm out of here, like, I'm not gonna do this anymore, like, all of those employers are so bad, I can do it myself. And first of all, I feel like the moment when it's coming purely just from the anger or frustration is just not a good way to start this, because it's just not the right motivation. It's not gonna hold you there for forever, right?
That's so true.
And second, it's really the type of people who really had no idea that there are stuff actually behind that. Apart from the fact that someone else is paying your taxes, that you don't even have to do this system. Accounting is just like such a small part of all of that. You know,
Yes.
one thing that I see in people who are running long-term sustainable businesses that separates them from the ones who maybe start in this way is that they have this resilience in them. And even from the story of when your mom ruined your business, it's amazing, because the moment you realize, like, oh, yes, this is not such a good business model, and you pivot, right? It's not in a sense of suddenly you don't tell yourself like, oh my God, I'm never gonna make it, right? You have this innate resilience in you that clearly was shown already when you were a child. I have a story connected to that, because the moment you said it, first of all, it was hilarious, but it also made me laugh as a reflection of something. My first business was when I think I was maybe like 8 years old, when I started creating bookmarks. And I just did it for myself.
Ooh.
Again, I was also a huge reader at the time. I was reading probably around like 10 books per month or something. I was just like so much into it. And I was obsessed with cats for whatever reason at the time. Okay, we had a cat, so probably that's the reason. And I was just kind of like, honestly, I was not like a crazy artist, but I was just having so much fun that I was always creating something. And then because people started to see it, you know, my classmates started to see it, and they would ask me, can you also make me one, or can you give me one? And I said, sure, you can buy it.
Love it. Good for you.
Yeah, so I would start selling them for Czech crowns back then, so 5 crowns, which is, I don't know, maybe like 1 cent, right? Like for one. And at some point, the teacher, I have to say, she didn't really like me. She came to me and she was very angry, saying that business on the school property is not allowed.
Come on.
I find so ridiculous.
A little bit dramatic.
Exactly. Yeah. And I needed to give all the money back to so it almost feels like the state comes to you, tells you that your business is illegal and you need to give all the money back.
Exactly. I mean, like, okay, she wants you to give the money back. Did you get your product back?
I didn't. All of my stock stayed with the ex-customers.
Oh no.
But it was such a huge lesson at the time, right? But again, we either get stuck with these stories, whether it is selling bookmarks or, or selling your mom her own food. But it's just funny how it can be these small things that maybe we get stuck on, but these small things become bigger things when we are in business, and we need to keep learning how to get back on track, how to not listen to nasty comments, how to not listen to people who know us and think they know us and they are not supportive of what we're doing, or just your own struggles, because you will keep learning and failing and learning again and getting back up and going back down.
Yes. I believe in that so much. I had to create a podcast around it. That's exactly what Mistakes That Made Me is about. And just hearing the level of resilience that these business owners have and have to have in order to build a successful business, it's really inspiring. And it reminds you that, and I particularly interview people that we would look at and think, oh, that person's, really successful, because I want everyone to know, and it's a great reminder for me too, that even the most successful people make mistakes and have setbacks and have built their resiliency.
Oh, maybe I could turn the tables right now.
I know what you're going to ask, and the answer is disappointing.
You never made a mistake?
I I've made so many. This is why another reason I created the podcast. But the problem is when you have a podcast called Mistakes That Made Me, and then you go on podcast, everyone asks you, okay, well, what was the mistake that made you? But I haven't figured it out yet. And I feel like that's almost because there's probably a little bit of pressure for it to be really good. Like it has to be really good to the point that I'm probably going to make like a whole bonus special episode around my own mistake. So I'm still trying to figure it out. There are so many things that I could kind of look to. But gosh, there was so many. But I think the most important thing that I realized was just don't make the same mistake twice in business. That's it. Like it's okay to make mistakes. In fact, you have to make mistakes in order to learn. But then the lesson is don't make that mistake again. Make sure you learn from it. So you just don't have to experience the same kind of pain again. But I mean, gosh, starting a business is a lot. I'm a very different person from who I was 4 or 5 years ago. I think I always had a lot of confidence, but I think being a business owner squashed some of that initially, that confidence, with the rejection that you experience in terms of getting on sales calls and thinking you have a client and then never hearing from them again, or having really bad experiences on calls with potential clients, just having really negative experiences with clients who, you know, are complaining or are unhappy or just sometimes just not nice people. And so all of that is an experience and a lesson to be learned. And I think one of the mistakes that made me was one specific person that I remember working with. And I never initially went on that very first call that I spoke to her. I didn't like pick up on anything. She seemed like very nice. I did think at the time that she seems very flustered, like very like, oh, I'm so busy. And I just, I'm always so busy. And and that's a problem for me because the work that I do requires you to just stop and take time to work with me so that I can create the work for you. There's a lot of work for you to do initially because I am writing as you. So I really need to know you, and my clients need to take that time to send me all the information that I need, all the docs that I need, and actually sit down with me on phone calls, filling questionnaires. It takes a lot of time. So if on our very first call, you're like, oh, I'm so busy, I don't have time for any of this, I'm so flustered. It's a little bit of a flag for me, just a little. But it wasn't enough for me to turn the project down. And actually it was at the time back then, the biggest invoice that I was sending. So it was also a milestone. And I was like, there's no way I'm saying no to this project. Like, I don't care. I don't care what happens. There's no way I'm going to get through it. And so immediately after that, it was just problem after problem after problem. One of the problems was even just the mode of communication. So I communicate with my clients. At the time, it was always through email, like written, or Zoom, like we'd have Zoom calls, or Loom. And Loom is, just in case someone doesn't know, like you can record yourself, you can communicate asynchronously. So like I record myself, maybe record my screen, walk you through something, and then I'll send it to you as a video, and then you get to watch that in your own time. So it's not like I'm taking up your time in real time. We have to get on a call for an hour. No, you can just watch the video when you have time, right? This client didn't like that. They wanted me to send them voice notes. They wanted to communicate via voice notes. And I wasn't comfortable with that at the time because I'd never done it. And also I could see there being an issue with just like miscommunication, missing things, like, and so I said, actually, that's not how I communicate. This is how I communicate. Let's keep this to email so that, everything is documented. If we need to refer back to something, we can. It's very, very easy, very simple. Let's just do that. This person asked me, I said no. And I had to say no another 4 times, I think it was. They kept asking me over and over again until the point that I just felt so uncomfortable and so just like I just remember thinking, how many times can I say no to a person? Like, she just wore me down until I just said yes. And then, of course, exactly what I was worried about happened, in that there was a conversation about contracts that happened over voice note. And, you know, the app deleted the voice notes. They were gone. And so there was no record of what I had said and what she had said. And I knew, and I instantly just thought, this is a nightmare. I mean, there were so many points. At one point, this person, oh God, I don't know if I should say this, but at one point, this person said, can we get on a call? And I said, sure. And she said, my husband is going to be on the call. And I was like, okay. So I just like double checked, like, is he a business partner? Is he like part of the business? Like, why would he be on the call? No, he wasn't a business partner. He was basically an emotional support person on the call. And actually, I will say that he was absolutely fantastic. And I really needed him on that call. I didn't know how much I needed him on that call. But I literally spent the night before sweating. And I remember I couldn't sleep the night before because I didn't know who her husband was. I didn't know if he was going to be aggressive or challenge me or be frustrated with me about what about all the kind of things that were going on in this project. And actually, he was really lovely, so that was great. But it was a very upsetting experience. It was very stressful. It was very anxiety inducing, and how it ended very badly. It ended how it kind of started. So I ended up firing her, and she had just hired me and she just paid me to work on another project. And I remember sitting down with my friends and my friends being like, please don't take the second project. And I'm saying, well, I just found out I'm pregnant. I just found out that I was pregnant with my second child. And I said, I need to take all the money I can get. I have to think about maternity leave. I need to take this project. And they were like, please don't take the project. It was a nightmare for you. And I was like, no, I need to do this. So I took the project, I accepted the payment, and I just thought, you know what, at least now I know how she works. I know what her buttons are. I can maybe avoid triggering her. Like, we can get through this. We could not get through this. We could not. And so she just kind of came to me, and I didn't even like how the whole conversation was going, how I was being spoken to. And I just remember in that moment, like, it was like, you know, when you're like watching yourself from outside of your body. And I just remember thinking, this person has caused me sleepless nights, like actual sleepless nights. I did not quit the stability of a traditional 9-to-5 job to deal with crap like this, to deal with people that I don't want to deal with. Running a business is hard enough. The pros are that you get to choose who you work with, that you get to choose what you work on, and that you're, free and have this like flexibility. If you don't have those things, there are no pros to being a business owner. So I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to refund you the money, and we're not going to work together because this is not working out. So I wish you all the best. Good luck and goodbye. And I have never felt so free, and everything in that moment, everything changed for me in my business. And I actually remember putting the laptop, like closing the laptop. And again, I was pregnant. And so I really did need all the money I could get. But I remember thinking, I will never allow this to happen to me again. Like, this will never happen to me again. I believe to this day that she was totally in the wrong. And actually, she sent me a message afterwards that was I'm sorry, it wasn't a message. It was actually on that call. She wasn't happy about me firing her, as you can imagine. So she actually threatened me a little bit. No, she did threaten me. And I just remember that being firstly validation of, I don't want to work with you anymore. And also just feeling like, I feel like she was totally in the wrong at so many points. However, that's really unhelpful. So I'm going to think about all the places that I could have done something better. Like, I don't think I was ever in the wrong, but where could I have handled the situation so that it didn't even get to like the next point? What could I have done in the first place? And so I really went back to the beginning and I analyzed the situation, the conversations, my processes, my systems, and really figured out like all the places where something kind of went wrong and what could I do to fix it. And since that client, I have never again worked with a client that I have not absolutely adored working with. My rates are a whole lot higher. I am so much more confident in my work, in the people that I work with. I love my clients. They love me, thankfully. And I just have a really great experience with the people that I work with now. If I had to take, if someone said to me, you can take it was 4 or 5 months of my life. Like this was not a short amount of time. If someone said to me, you can take that back and just like delete it, remove it, like make it never happen, make it so that it never happened, I would say absolutely not. Like I needed to go through all of that and experience all of that so that I could figure out exactly what I needed to do and all the things I needed to stop doing, all the things I need to do better so that I could then build the 6-figure business that I have today. And I credit the change to that experience and that not so great client.
Honestly, I'm just blown away right now because I had so many things coming to me as you were saying this story. First of all, it comes back to the resilience and come back to what you were saying, right? Just don't make the same mistake twice. I don't know who said it, but I've heard this quote of when you make a mistake once, it's not a mistake. Mistake is if you repeat it. We shouldn't learn from it and you repeat it. And exactly, I just found it so powerful. And it's interesting because, wow, you actually brought me into a place that I wanted to get to with you anyway, but you brought me there. So thank you. Thank you for the transfer. But even for, let's say, you as a business owner, there is the pressure of, you need to make money and it's just on you. No one else is going to do that for your business, right? So obviously there's moments where you can take certain projects, even if you see the red flags. And my theory is that we always see the red flags. We just sometimes choose to ignore them. Mm-hmm. We tell ourselves certain reasons. We decide not to listen to the intuition, right? Again, we make the mistakes because we have already done it in the past, but now we repeat it. Mm-hmm. And I believe it's the same thing with people on job interviews, right? You're just so desperate to get a job that you just like, you say this to the manager, even if you very clearly see that this is not it's going to be a toxic relationship, right? Yes. The same with managers who want to just quickly hire somebody because they're sick of the HR or constantly sending them people, right? It's always the same stuff. The same in romantic relationship, right? How many people have been in a situation like that? What I found interesting that you would have this pressure as a business owner, but then we have this pressure if there's a salesperson, let's say, in a job, you have KPIs, right? So you're gonna onboard that client, you will work on delivering that. Plus, then you not only feel the pressure from the client, but a double pressure because of your bosses and the certain things that you don't manage to do in your job, right? You don't bring the sale, etc., etc. I've definitely had experiences like that so much.
Yes.
The topic I wanted to get with you to is authenticity. And how, especially in moments like that, when there is this certain pressure, you feel like you cannot react the way how you actually want to react and you cannot really be yourself. I just wanted to bring it to the pool of kind of like thinking about authenticity. First of all, I would love to, if you could express for me what that actually means for you and how you feel like, what are the ways how you express your own authenticity. But then especially when it comes to a point where you do feel somehow pressured and you feel like you should change your behavior, you should change how you act, what you say, etc., etc. How do you deal with situations like that?
I think at the beginning, when I first started, I didn't know how to. I was in that mentality of the customer is always right. The customer is king. You treat them how, they are basically, the customer is everything and they can never be wrong. And you just have to like figure it out, deal with it. And so if there was anything negative, anything bad, I always just kind of dealt with it initially at the beginning. But then I realized that actually that was really inauthentic to me, because some of the things that like people would say to me, if you said that to me in the street, like outside of my business walls, there's no way I would just take it. I would tell you exactly what I'm thinking, and I we would be having a conversation.
Do you have an example for that?
Well, yeah, I do have an example. So for example, someone wants something as simple as someone asking for my rates, and I gave her my rates, and she didn't like my rates because she couldn't afford my rates. So instead of thinking, because when I want to hire someone and I can't afford their rates, I just think, oh, well, okay, I can't work with them. I can't afford their rates. I don't think their rates are the problem, right? It is what it is. I just can't afford to work with them. But this lady felt like my rates were the issue. She told me, and I will just need to put this into context, because this was maybe 3 years ago. And I want to tell you that my prices have, I want to say quadrupled since that time, but that might not be generous enough. Like, what I was charging back then is not what I'm charging now. So when she asked me for my rates, they were, I was not charging enough at that time for the work that I was doing. Again, but that was to do with my confidence and all that good stuff. Anyway, she asked me for my rates. I told her my rates. She did not like my rates. She told me my rates were disgusting. That if she didn't say that I should be ashamed, it was along those lines of, I can't believe you're charging this. I came to you because I was told that you're a good person. And just, I mean, it just went on and on and on, like a humongous email about how terrible me and my prices are.
Wow.
And so I remember responding to her with like 2 lines, because that was just really satisfying to me to respond to her, like paragraphs and paragraphs with like 2 lines. Like, I don't even have time for this. I said something like, if my rates are too high for you, like I specifically said, if they're too high for you, then you might want to consider hiring a junior copywriter whose rates might be more in line with your budget. I think I said like, all the best, goodbye. And even that was me like with my professional hat on. But today, I would love for her to try and send me that email today, because the response might be, who the hell do you think you're talking to?
It would be the best email she would ever receive.
Really? Because in what world do you speak to someone like that? In what world do you speak to someone like that? And so I'm always like trying to find this line and this balance between being professional and, you know, and nice as well. Like, I feel like what I never want to do is respond in a way that I'll regret later. So I don't want to swear at you because I might regret that later. What I want to do is be able to look back on the situation and think, I'm happy with how I handled that. So now though, like, I still won't swear at you. All right, I'm not going to do that. But I will say, like, that's a completely unacceptable way to speak to me, and I don't accept that, and I don't want to work with you. Goodbye. I'm much more kind of forthcoming and just honest. And I think that's one of the benefits of being a business owner, is that I get to be honest, because sometimes people forget that. I think sometimes people come into like my world thinking that I have a manager above me who is that they can complain to about me, or that they can like speak to about me, you know, like I have a manager who's going to tell me off, or no, I am the manager. So if you come to me with that attitude, then I can decide that I don't even want to talk to you. Like, the conversation's over before it's even begun. Goodbye. And so yeah, I'm very much, and I think if you were to ask like my friends and my family, I'm the person you want to be with. If you have like, if there's an issue, I'm very good with, well, I was gonna say I'm very good with my words. I guess that's why I'm a writer. But verbally, like I'm good at communicating what I want to say. I think I'm that person who you would appreciate in like a verbal situation, right? And so I kind of have to find a way to balance that, because I still want to be professional, but I also I'm not a mat for you to walk all over also in the same instance. So things like that have been really interesting to manage. And like, because I do think this goes back to authenticity in terms of like, how much of me can I bring to this business? And so that's still something I'm figuring out. And again, it happens all the time. This is recent. I got, I would say what was a verbally abusive email from someone. And this doesn't happen a lot. So, I mean, these three incidences that have happened over the course of 4 to 5 years, right? So this doesn't happen a lot. And I'm so happy that I don't attract these kind of people. But sometimes it happens when you're online and you're selling stuff. So I got an email that wasn't very nice. And what's funny is that I was having a really difficult week as well. Like there's a lot of personal stuff that was going on that week. And I was checking my emails in the evening before bed. And I know that's something that I don't want to do, but I always do it. I was holding my baby in one hand, scrolling on the other, and this email came through and it made my blood like run cold, you know? And I just thought, like, I wonder if the person sending this, because I did not deserve this email and what he said to me. I wonder if like he ever just thought that there's a human being on the other side of this who has her own stuff going on, who is a person who is, you know, a mother trying to put her sick baby to sleep. Like, are you okay? You know? And so I responded with him saying, I actually said to him, I don't respond to verbally abusive men. So literally, remove yourself from my inbox and don't speak to me again. And that felt good. So yeah, it's a balance and I'm still figuring that out. But I do think that I love the fact that my business does give me the space and the freedom to really be who I am.
This is beautiful. And I even feel like towards the end, when you said that, does the person realize that I might be a mother, that I might be just carrying my sick son and so on? They don't have to know that in order for, you know, to be kind, to be just respectful. That's even the thing of like, that we want to kind of like, you don't know what's going on in my life. Yeah, we also don't know what's going on in their life. And
yes.
None of it is an excuse.
Right? And they don't need to know. Nobody needs to know.
Exactly. Just the fact that you are a human being means that you have a life. That's it.
Exactly.
Maybe some people should get a life in order to understand this.
And, you know, at the time, as I was reading it, there was an awareness that like, this isn't about me. This is about him. And there's something clearly going on with him, because what he was being really verbally abusive to me about it was like his reaction was just not in proportion at all to like it was not proportionate to the situation. It was dramatic. It was just way over the top. And again, it was horrible. And so I remember at the time thinking, this isn't about me. It doesn't make it any less, like it doesn't make it easier for me. But you know, my next thought was, well, he's going through something. And then my next thought after that was like, we're all going through something. Everyone is going through something. All of us are going through something. It's no excuse. And so yeah, that was still something I'm like.
But I feel like that's actually the thing, that what authenticity is, right? The fact that you are yourself and the fact that you are confident about being yourself, it's always going to trigger somebody. But fortunately, it's also the thing that magnetizes towards you the people who then are just like so genuine and so great and you're really vibing with. And once in a while, when there's this accident, when this random stranger comes in and starts trolling, it's kind of it. Maybe that's even the reason why it surprises you. Even it catches you off guard even more.
Yes, it's that. It's the way that it catches you off guard, and you feel like you were totally unprepared. Your walls were down, and it's that it just came from nowhere and like just knocks you over completely.
Yeah, because imagine like if you are working in a cafe, right? You meet so many different types of people. Of course, that let's say there's gonna be hippie cafe or like super luxurious. It's attracting certain type of people, but not to that degree. It's still a cafe that's on a corner, anyone can come in. And so if you're gonna see somebody who's kind of weird or aggressive or something, you're gonna be like, what's their deal? But you don't attach yourself to it, right? It's nothing to do with you. But the moment when you feel like somebody actively comes to you because of who you are and what you do, it really does feel like a personal attack, no matter how much mindset work you have done in the past, at least like for a second, right? It's kind of like, it's like, well, what's going on? And sometimes when I'm feeling triggered by someone online, both when it is on that I watch someone's content, like just, sometimes TikTok or Instagram or YouTube, whatever, it just brings you randomly to somewhere where when I feel triggered by that, I'm just gonna be like, oh, I'm not their target audience, and I just leave. And I just had to learn to have this type of thought.
Yes, I like that.
And something similar I have, like when like some stranger comes to me. I recently had also something really strange happening where I felt like, I don't know you. You started following me yesterday, and right now you're gonna come here and start telling me these things. Like, are you serious? And funny enough, like when I told this person, like, really, he told me like, whoa, I'm sorry that it triggered you so much, but I don't know why you're overreacting so much. And that was for me like, block.
Yes.
And then I'm thinking, I am not their target person. Like, I am not their person. So I'm kind of thinking in that, like, we are vibing on a different vibrations.
100%. You know, what's so funny is, as you said that, like, I was thinking okay, so with me, I am blocking you at the instant that you send me a message with just the word hi. If I get a message in my inbox that says hi or just hello, I'm not joking, just block. Yeah. Because there's only one way this conversation is going, and that's down from there. So I literally blocked. And it's so funny. So that's why I was laughing as you were speaking. I was like, block in my head. And I think the other reason of like, for all of the reason it affects us so much is because we're so vulnerable in the work that we do, just like being here, having this conversation, knowing that it's like, people are going to watch this and listen to this, and people are going to interpret or make their own interpretations, whether we like it or not. People are going to judge you, and they're going to judge me, and they're going to figure, okay, do I like this person? Do I not like this person? And they really don't know us. They're just getting like a snippet of an hour and a half of our lives. And so it's very vulnerable work that we do and that we're in. And I always feel that even in my podcast, when I'm scripting my intros or outros, when I'm writing all this stuff, sometimes I'm nervous about what's going out, and not because I'm saying anything like controversial or anything like that, but because it's really personal. And letting people in to, and so many people at a time in to hear your thoughts and your feelings, it's hard stuff. And so when people are mean about it or weird about it, it feels like a rejection, and exactly as you said, like a personal attack on who you are, as opposed to maybe what you do or the work you do. Even like I speak to so many copywriters about, when we submit work to clients, and like we're so nervous because you want the client to love it so much. But what happens if the client doesn't love it? They come back and they say, oh, actually, I don't like it. I need us to rework, certain parts of it. And it feels like the client has just said, I don't like you. I don't like you, because we hold our work so closely to us, right? But what's really funny is one of my earliest coaches gave me a really great tip, which was, well, first of all, what my mom has always taught me, which is if something upsets you, like walk away for 24 hours, just let it sit, and then like don't send any emails, don't send any responses, let it sit, come back to it in 24 hours. Always been really great advice for me. But then this coach went even further and said, look, go through, like after 24 hours, after you've settled down, your emotions were heightened and have come back down, like go back to wherever they gave you this feedback or what you feel was criticism, and actually just like go through it with a fresh set of eyes, because often it's not as bad as you thought. Sometimes like you'll go, oh my God, they hate the whole thing, I have to start all over again. And actually it was maybe a few paragraphs or a few things, when you actually just like calm down a little bit and have a look at what's really going on. So yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah. Wow. I feel like it's such a valuable advice. And this is the power of having an email, to have it written, so that you can come back to it.
Exactly.
This is very good, right? You cannot do it with just a normal conversation. You get triggered and you already don't hear the rest of what the person is saying.
Exactly. That's it. Your brain's already gone. You're like, oh my God, they hate it. This is awful. Everything's, ruined. This is the worst day ever. And you've actually just got to calm down a little bit.
Yes. Eman, thank you so much. This was such a beautiful conversation. So
you.
as we mentioned, you have incredible podcast, Mistake That Made Me. So definitely after listeners are finishing this podcast, they should definitely head right away over there. Where else can people find you? What you currently maybe have available for somebody?
Thank you. Yes. Okay. So, well, I'm on Instagram. So find me on Instagram at Eman Copyco. I also I have a newsletter, so I'll give you the link to the newsletter. So that's where I write all my emails about me, my business, my experiences in business, and also helping people to write better emails for themselves, for their own businesses, that kind of thing. And I'm also always taking clients. So if you or your organization needs someone to write their emails or to come in and look at their email strategy and figure out how you can, better connect with your subscribers, your audience, or sell more to your subscribers and your audience, then get in touch with me at my website, emancopyco.com.
Amazing. I'm going to definitely link all of it in description later. Iman, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. This has been one of the best podcast interviews really that I've done. So I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Oh, I'm feeling so honored. Thank you.